Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the man with the hottest wheels, Corey Hot Wheels, and his giant beer gut coming at you with another episode of Wrestling with Wheels. So, I don't have any notes this week. In this week's episode, as I do every pay-per-view, we're going to talk about the pay-per-view. I have a couple other things I want to go over as well, but I pretty much know what I want to talk about this week. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. So, just actually a couple hours ago, the Royal Rumble ended, and I thought it was an incredible show. You kind of knew going in, what was going to happen, but it still made it for a good show. And, the way that Triple H and company booked this thing was just absolutely amazing. So, let's start by talking about the Women's Royal Rumble match. A lot of women entered. They didn't have any legends this year, which is something that eventual winner Bayley touched on in the press conference later in the, after the Royal Rumble had concluded, because there was a lot of women that, they wanted to showcase, and they did just that. They had Roxanne Perez come out, which I knew she was coming out because, when they showed the trailer of Randy Orton walking out to the ring earlier, they had Roxanne Perez's background on the Titron thing. So, you knew that she was coming out and rehearsing, practicing her entrance, probably running the ramp, running some ropes. Just trying to get a feel for it. But, so yes, Roxanne did come out. Tiffany Stratton came out. Naomi came back, which, everybody thought that, after she had lost the TNA Knockouts title to Jordynne Grace at Hard to Kill, that's what was going to happen. Because I think her deal with TNA only lasted, maybe throughout the summer and the start of winter. And what I think was really incredible, and I actually posted this on my Facebook, was that Michael Cole had mentioned that she had won the TNA Knockouts World title while away from, WWE. Because WWE's parent company, Endeavor, also owns the TNA Plus streaming service. They don't have anything to do with TNA itself, but they own the streaming service, the TNA Plus streaming service. So, and speaking of that, and I marked like crazy when I seen this, Jordynne Grace came out, and I'm like, oh my God. Especially, her matching up with Bianca. I'm like, man, I hope WWE and TNA work together, because especially with Jordynne Grace, there could be some major dream matches there. Especially, I'd like to see Josh Alexander go up against AJ Styles. Eddie Edwards go up against Seth Rollins. Just some ideas. But, back to the Women's Royal Rumble match. I think a lot of people predicted that Bayley was going to win the match, and she ended up winning, but for a split second there, number 30, when Liv came out, I was telling my cousin, we were texting during the event, and I was like, oh, maybe Liv might win it, you know. Because, you know, her and Rhea were the final two last year, and Rhea was the one that put her on the shelf with that shoulder injury. So, you know, I thought maybe, but that could still happen because, you know, let's talk about, you know, Bayley winning the Rumble. I don't think she's challenging Rhea. You know, it's been said for a while that Damage Control was going to turn on her, and I think that's going to happen, you know. And, you know, Bayley acted kind of facey in her press conference promo tonight and, you know, brought up the cheers. So I think, you know, there's glimpses we're going to get the hugger back. So, you know, I didn't think Bayley would make a good heel the first time, but over the past 5 years, she's proven me wrong. I mean, she has definitely been a villain in the women's division, that's for sure. And, so, you know, I think she's going to challenge Io at Mania. Now, on who's going to go over at Mania with that, I don't know just yet. But we'll just have to wait and see and find out. Then after the Women's Royal Rumble match had concluded, we went into the Fatal 4-Way match for the WWE Universal title between Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and LA Knight. I mean, everybody kind of figured Roman Reigns was going to win. I think a lot of us, you know, were hoping that Randy would pull it off, and for that split second I thought, but I'm like, you know, when referee Dan Angler counted that count kind of slower than what he usually counts, I'm like, oh, something's going to happen. Like, somebody's breaking it up, Roman's going to kick out, and lo and behold, from behind the hood, Solo Sikoa showed up and pulled referee Dan Angler out of the ring. So, yeah, and I sat there just like everybody else, like, damn it, Solo. Because I thought it would have been cool to have, you know, Randy Orton challenge Cody Rhodes or Randy Orton defend the WWE Universal title against Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, excuse me. You know, with all the stuff with Legacy, you know, they could have brought back when Randy Orton RKO'd Dusty Rhodes that one time, you know. When Randy Orton punted Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 26, you know, they could have done a lot of stuff with that, but it seems like we're going to get Cody versus Roman 2 at WrestleMania, which, hey, I don't mind that, you know, as long as Cody finishes the story this time. You know, I think it's time that, you know, Cody finally wins the big one. You know what I mean? But, you know, since I did mention Cody, I will go ahead and talk about the Men's Royal Rumble match. So, you know, I feel too many surprises in the Men's Royal Rumble match. I mean, the biggest being Andrade coming back. I think he's going to do really well this time in WWE. I wasn't a fan of him at the beginning, but, you know, when he had his run in AEW, I mean, he's proven a lot to me. And, you know, especially where Triple H doesn't always push the great big guys like Vince McMahon did. So, you know, maybe Andrade might have a chance to compete for the world title against, you know, the likes of like Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Randy Orton. And I seen where Almost came back. I mean, I kind of figured that was going to happen. I kind of thought it was pretty incredible that Braun Breaker eliminated him. That would be a cool match to see in the future. Especially the way Braun Breaker's been built up. throughout the course of his career. And Braun's been one of my favorites to watch. Sami Zayn coming back at number 30. I was thinking it was going to be Braun Strowman coming back, but hey, Sami Zayn coming back. I like Sami Zayn, so I wasn't, mad about that. But man, let's talk about the end of that Rumble match. Cody and CM Punk. I mean, literally just putting on a 5-star match in the Royal Rumble match. Minus the pinfall and the submissions. I mean, these two were beating the daylights out of each other. And, man, I was on the edge of my seat, man. I was like, oh, my God, who is going to win this thing? And, when CM Punk said, I didn't come to lose to Dusty's kids, I'm like, yep, Cody's winning it. And there he is, yep. So, Cody Rhodes. The first time in over 20 years since Stone Cold Steve Austin did it back in 1997 and 1998 to win back-to-back Royal Rumble matches. So, will Cody Rhodes finish the story at WrestleMania? We shall see. A lot of people said The Rock was going to come back and win it, and I was almost sitting there. I'm like, wait a minute. Because I don't know if any of you guys played the Byron story in WWE 2K20, but I'm kind of going to spoil it a little bit. Because toward the end, when the male character wins the Royal Rumble, there's a 31st entrant, and out came The Rock, who was actually president of the United States in that game. Like, in that whole story. And I'm thinking, man, they're going to bring out The Rock as number 31, which, I mean, I love The Rock, don't get me wrong. The Rock, I think, would have got an ovation there, but I think a lot of people wanted to see Cody or Punk win it, It was divided on, I picked Gunther at the last minute. I thought Gunther was going to win it all, but, I don't think they're ready to take the IC title off of him just yet. So what I think is going to happen is, The Rock and Roman Reigns are going to fight for the Universal title at the Elimination Chamber, because they're in front of the international crowd in Australia. So they are going to want to bring The Rock in, to make those fans over in Australia happy. And then it'll be Cody and Roman at Mania. But I think, a lot of people said they wanted CM Punk to win, but I think Punk's going to challenge Seth. They had that match back in, 2013, when on a random episode of Raw, and the match was kind of But I think, Seth being as good as he is now and Punk coming back, especially with the whole thing of Seth being pissed when CM Punk came back at Survivor Series, I think that's what's going to happen for the World Heavyweight title. Mania. Sorry, I had a burp in there. It's like the worst when you get a burp stuck in there and it don't want to come out. But, anyway, so let's backtrack just a little bit to the United States title match between Kevin Owens and Logan Paul. Honestly, a very, very good match. I didn't think that match was, no disrespect to Kevin Owens or Logan Paul. I think both are very, very talented wrestlers, but I just didn't think they would have the time, with both Royal Rumble matches and the Fatal 4-Way to really showcase. But, man, I mean, they threw it all out there, man, and, and Logan Paul's buddy, I don't know his name, coming over the ring and security taking him out, and then Austin Theory and Grayson Waller coming down and, handing Logan Paul the brass knuckles, but Kevin Owens was able to take the brass knuckles away from Logan and deck Logan himself, and then right as official Ryan Tran was getting ready to count the 3, he caught the brass knuckles on Kevin Owens' hand and disqualified him. So I don't think this is the last we've seen of Kevin Owens versus Logan Paul. So we'll have to wait and see when that next encounter between those two guys happens. So let's kind of address the elephant in the wrestling world right now that has been all over the internet for the past couple days, and that is the whole, scandal with Vince McMahon, forcing that Grant woman to, have sex with him and all this other crap. And, I know that Vince has been in a lot of scandals throughout his career. The steroid scandal, just tons of different things have come against Vince. But I don't know, man. Just the way the texts were wrote, I just don't know if Vince would write something like that. Using all those abbreviations. It wouldn't surprise me. Had he been involved in another scandal. But, I don't know, man. But, honestly, as a genius as Vince McMahon is, what he's done for, all our childhoods over the last 40-some years. It's like, Vince, dude. It's time to get off the board. It's time to just, let TKO run it. Let Triple H do creative. Man, you've had your time. Just ride off into the sunset. Enjoy all the millions of dollars you have made. And thank you for everything you have done. But, honestly, man, every time you weasel your way back on the board, you just end up bringing more and more controversy. And it's like, just think about what that's doing to your family. Think about, especially your grandkids, man. I don't agree with a lot of Vince Russo's takes, but, he was right. That it's got to be hurting those grandkids. And, I'm not a Vince McMahon hater. I'm not, this whole case is just going to have to play out in court to see if he's innocent or guilty. But, especially with John Laurinaitis involved in it, Brock Lesnar supposedly being involved in it, this is just, very, very concerning news for the WWE. Do I think WWE is going to go out of business because of this? Absolutely not. But, Vince, he just needs to stay away, He's just bringing too much trouble. And, he did say that he stepped down from the board, which is why I think The Rock was hired onto the TKO board. But I did want to mention something, and, as a guy who sits here and reports on wrestling news, on the internet, I know I don't have a big following. I don't have a lot of relevance other than I'm just a fan reporting on something that he's passionate about. But to all those reporters at the press conference that kept hounding Triple H, about all this Vince McMahon stuff, I'm like, guys, that was so disrespectful. The guy that asked Cody the question, I thought Cody answered the question really well. I thought the question was asked very well, about the dark cloud hanging over, I didn't mind the question about, like, the harassment. I think that is something that did need to be asked, because of all this harassment in the workplace, not just in WWE, but in all the world that just goes around these days. And I do believe that, Triple H, Nick Khan, the TKO board, are taking this very, very seriously. I do believe that. I don't think, a lot of people were scared that Triple H was going to get fired. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he had any involvement in this whole thing. I mean, but let's be honest here. A lot of the guys that have been around WWE for the last 20 years, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know about the crap that Vince McMahon has done behind the scenes. Like I said, I'm not a Vince McMahon hater, but, I just thought, because Triple H specifically said, and we all knew that this was going to happen, and I even said this in the wrestling chat that I'm a part of on Facebook Messenger. Somebody was going to ask Triple H about the whole Vince McMahon thing. And I thought Triple H was very polite in his answer. He wasn't mean about it. He just said, look, I want to focus on the positives. I don't want to focus on the negatives. And the reporters and, like, 2 different people just kept hounding him about it. And I'm like, guys, I give all the prop in the world to Triple H for not losing his cool there. To just remain calm, remain professional. Because, Triple H said he didn't want to talk about it. And, yet 2 people asked him. I'm like, guys, could you not think of another question? He specifically told the first person he did not want to talk about it. And what did you do? You just kept asking him. You kept pushing. I'm sure that put Triple H in a really tough spot there. And I'm not a perfect person either. I've pushed things out of people in the past that, wasn't really my concern and, that I shouldn't have asked about. And, but, and I don't like to get into controversy on Wrestling with Wheelz, but, obviously everybody's talking about this. I wanted to give my opinion on it. But let's not end, this episode with all that drama. I want to, real quick, talk about a TNA match that happened, not this past Thursday, but the Thursday before that. The first TNA show after Hard to Kill. And that was the match between Josh Alexander and Will Ospreay. 2 of the best wrestlers in the world. One of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen. These guys went and gave it their all. And it was just an absolutely incredible match to watch as a fan. A great way to usher in the new era. Scott and Moore coming out after the match. It was a great way to start the new era in TNA. So, gentlemen, great job. Great job. So, with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to conclude it for this week's episode of Wrestling with Wheelz. Hopefully you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Let's get these view numbers up. Let's get these subscribe numbers up. And I will see you guys in my next video. Take care.